We're going to get started with the hearing.
Excuse us.
Pardon us, we're going to get started.
We're going to begin our meeting now. All right, thank you. It is a few minutes after 7 p.m. in the Golden State, and I hereby welcome you to our January Hermosa Beach Planning Commission meeting. We'll begin with a Pledge of Allegiance, led by my colleague, Steve Izan.
Please stand, place your hand over your heart, and repeat after me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, if we could have a roll call of our attendance here.
Commissioner Izant,
Here.
Commissioner Flaherty,
Here.
Commissioner Hoffman,
There you go. Here.
Vice Chair Hirsch,
Here.
and Chair Peterson.
Here. All right, we have full attendance and a quorum. We'll now move on to item 4, approval of our agenda. This is the time for planning commissioners to discuss any changes to the order of agenda items. I'm doubtful that will happen, but if anyone wishes to, if not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Commissioner Hoffman, a second by Commissioner Flaherty. May we have a vote on that, please? Okay, voting is now open. The suspense.
Hey.
All right, motion to approve the agenda passed 5-0. All right, now moving on to public comment. This is the time for members of the public to address the Planning Commission on any items within the Commission's jurisdiction and on items where public comment will not otherwise be taken. The public is invited to attend and provide public comment. I'll note that public comment is limited to 2 minutes per speaker. And will only be taken from those present in the council chambers. No remote public comment will be taken. No action may be taken on matters raised during public comment, except that the Planning Commission may take action to schedule issues raised during public comment for a future agenda item. Speakers with comments regarding city management or departmental operations are encouraged to submit those comments directly to the Community Development Director or City Manager's Office. We'll now open public comment. If y'all want to come up, if you could sign in, if you give me your first and last name, even if you're comfortable or even well-known for appearing as a duo, you each get 2 minutes individually.
What up, Council? My name is Chad Kroger. So we come to you in a moment. We all witnessed the destructive fires that tore through our beloved city last week. Our hearts go out to all those whose houses burned down, and massive props to the firefighters out there working hard to keep us safe. Next round of brewskis at Sharky's. It's on us. We've been hugely inspired by all the Angelinos out there being helpful and unified. As we prepare to rebuild, we must remember the importance of citywide unification. We need a symbol, a beacon, to serve as a constant reminder. Vin Diesel and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson have been beefing ever since Dwayne called Vin a candy ass. And despite The Rock's faux pas, Vin made numerous attempts to reconcile. He understands brotherhood. And Vin finally got through to The Rock at the Golden Globes. If these two legends can come back together, anything is possible. That is why I'm calling upon the city to erect two statues, one of Vin and Dwayne side by side holding hands as a symbol of epic unity. We can do this, LA. We're family. Thank you.
Thank you, Chad. JT?
What up, council? Just to piggyback.
Could you share your whole name? I think I didn't.
Yes, pardon me. My name is JT Parr.
Okay.
And just to piggyback off what Chad was saying, I think these tragic fires are going to exacerbate our already existing housing crisis. I think it would behoove the Planning Commission to upzone our R1 neighborhood so we can add much needed density to our housing supply. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. My kids say hi, by the way. Does anyone else wish to speak during public comment? We do have a hearing coming up, but at this point, is there anyone else that is here in chambers that wishes to speak on an item not otherwise on the agenda? Going once, going twice. I see no other speakers, so at this point, I will close public comment and move on to item 6, which is the consent calendar. We have one item, which is our action minutes. We'll vote on the consent calendar en masse, but as it so happens, there's just one item. Does anyone have any changes or comments on the action minutes? If not, do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
So moved.
Second.
All right. So we have a motion and a second to essentially receive and file our minutes and by way of doing so, approve the consent calendar. May we open voting, please? All right. Motion carried 5-0. All right, we're now moving on to our one public hearing for tonight. This is item 7A. This is a city-initiated request for the modification or revocation of the CUP for on-sale alcohol, beer and wine, at an existing restaurant, Ramen and Sushia Inc. May we have a staff report, please?
Good evening, Chair and members of the Commission. Alexis Oropeza, Planning Manager. I'll be providing the staff presentation on this item. So this item is being brought before the Planning Commission this evening in accordance with Hermosa Beach Municipal Code, Section 17.70.010, entitled Permits which may be revoked or modified, and in accordance with the triannual CUP review process, which allows for the police chief to recommend a CUP review at his discretion at any time, regardless of the number of events in a period of time. So next slide, please. Oh. I'll keep going while the presentation catch up. So staff recommends that the Planning Commission receive the staff report, take public testimony, conclude the public hearing, and determine that the project, next slide, would be categorically exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act, as well as make findings required for revocation of the CUP, allowing for the on-sale of alcohol, beer, and wine at this existing restaurant, Ramen and Sushia Inc., previously AKA Sushi and Ramen. Next slide. So I'll go over some background here. The CUP for this location was first approved by the Planning Commission in 2004. In 2011, the City Council upheld an expansion of the CUP that had been approved by the Planning Commission. Resolution number 11-6776, which is one of two CUPs that still govern the operation of sale of alcohol at this location today. In 2018, the existing business obtained its business license approval. In April of 2023, the police department transmitted a request at that time to review the conditional use permit in response to 3 alcohol-related violations that had occurred within a 6-month period. Next slide. In July of 2023, the Planning Commission adopted a resolution adding 5 new conditions related to alcohol service. In September of that year, City Council considered the CUP as well, upheld the conditions of the Planning Commission and added an additional condition suspending the CUP for a period of time. More recently, in December of last year, the police department were informed that the restaurant was serving alcohol to underage persons and informed ABC of the alleged violation. Next slide. On January 3rd, the Department of Alcohol Beverage Control staff requested police assistance at the establishment and issued 11 ABC citations for underage drinking. On January 4th, the Community Development Department received information from the police department of the violation and requesting the CUP's review by the Planning Commission. On January 9th, staff from both HPP, Hermosa Beach Police Department and the Community Development Department conducted a follow-up inspection of the CUP conditions of approval and documented multiple violations at that time. Next slide. The subject property is located within the C3 zone. The C3 zone does permit restaurants by right and requires the sale of beer and wine for consumption at restaurants closing after 10 p.m. to obtain approval for a conditional use permit. The restaurant currently operates with a CUP, allowing operations until 11 p.m. on Friday and Saturdays. And the remainder of the week closes at 10 p.m. And the next slide, you can see an image of the existing site. It is located within a multi-tenant shopping center. The business is licensed as Ramen, as I mentioned previously, Ramen Sushi Inc., and has also been known as AKA Sushi and Ramen. And then as shown in the picture, the current business signage actually reads AKA Sushi and Sake Bomb. Next slide. The city's established triennial CUP review indicates that ABC violations may be recommended for review by the police chief at any time, again at his discretion, regardless of the number of incidents in a period of time. Section 17.70 of the Hermosa Beach Municipal Code also establishes the Planning Commission's authority to review and modify or revoke conditions of approval for CUPs. The police chief has reviewed the violations and did recommend CUP Planning Commission review. And then I just would like to go to the next slide, please, and give you the prior violations that occurred between 2022 and 2023, a brief overview. So in September of 2022, code enforcement received a complaint about underage drinking at the establishment, and on January 13th, of 2023, ABC was observed underage drinking at the premises. And again, on March 24th of 2023, additional citations were, and a separate incident cited for underage drinking. Fast forward to the current violation, next slide, that brought this CUP back for review before the Planning Commission was January 3rd, 2025 of this year, where ABC issued 11 citations. Following my report, we will have representatives from the police department speak to provide a little more information on the character and the nature of the violations that occurred. And again, January 9th, staff conducted a review for conditions of approval, compliance with conditions of approval of the CUP. Next slide. That, that review revealed that there were 5 conditions of approval that the applicant was not in compliance with from the underlying CUP 11, Resolution 11-6676. Signage had been modified without the benefit of permit, so one of the obligations is to follow the zoning code, adhere to all local, state, and federal regulations. So that was another violation in addition to the selling of alcohol to underage individuals. The more recent CUP that had been placed in 2023, there's 4 violations for those new conditions, including signage that was not properly posted in accordance with condition number of approval number 1. Condition number 2 of that resolution required alcohol training by both the manager and staff. The management was only able to produce proof of training having been completed by the manager, which is the RBS training. And that had only been completed on January 5th of this year. So these conditions had been in place in September of 2023, and compliance should have been achieved far before January of this year. An additional condition required the CUP to be available on site and posted on the premise so that staff and the management were familiar with the CUP. That could not be produced. And then condition of approval number 4 required 4 security cameras and the ability to play back at the request of the police department. While the security cameras were in place, there was not the ability to play back the recording at that time. So next slide. In order to consider a conditional use permit revocation, there are 8 findings established in the Hermosa Beach Municipal Code, any one of which must affirmatively, if affirmatively made, is the basis for which a CUP may be modified or revoked. In this case, staff finds that there are 3 findings to support the revocation of this conditional use permit. Specifically D, E, and F, that the use is being exercised in a manner that's detrimental to public health and safety, that the use has been exercised contrary to the current terms of and conditions of the approval, and that the conditions of approval are inadequate to mitigate the impacts imposed on the use. So those additional conditions were imposed in 2023 to help control and protect public safety. However, the applicant has not adhered to conditions and has resulted in repeated violations and led to staff's recommendation for revocation. Next slide. The proposed recommendation is consistent with public safety element goals, which is to abate nuisances and to empower the police department review of sensitive uses that have historically caused nuisances within the city. Next slide. The proposed project was evaluated for compliance with CEQA and would be exempt as a Class 1 for existing facilities, whether the project is revoked or conditions are amended. In addition, the project was noticed in accordance with the zoning code. Next slide. Specifically, January 9th, notices were mailed to a 500-foot radius. A legal ad was published in the Easy Reader. Notices were posted at the business. In addition, staff hand-delivered a notice to the business owner and sent an email to the business. On January 10th, certified mail was mailed to both the business and property owner as well. Next slide. So it is staff's recommendation to determine that the project is categorically exempt and adopt a resolution revoking the conditional use permit. So that will conclude my portion of the staff report, but I would like to hand it over to the Chief of Police, Chief LeBaron, at this time.
Thank you, Chief. I know that you have a lot of detail to share with us, so you obviously can speak, and then as you need to bring people up from either your staff, your force, or from ABC, I trust your discretion to make sure that all the appropriate information is presented.
Thank you, Chair.
And then after that, there will be time for the business owner to speak as well as questions. So everyone will be heard, but we do need to start with your facts and findings.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And thank you, Madam Manager, for the staff report. I stand before you again. I know we were here back in 2023, for many of you that were on commission at that time, talking about this as a very serious offense. And that has not changed. This is a public safety threat. This is a danger. We are well aware that this is a business that is known throughout the South Bay community amongst our young people as a place they can go and purchase alcohol without being 21 or older. And that is a concern. It has been a concern for a long time. I have asked some people to come up and speak in detail about the things that they observed and saw. These are the investigators that were there and issued the citations and did the inspections. I think it's important that you know exactly what we're talking about. We want to distinguish that this is not an innocent mistake. This is not something that somebody can say, oops, I didn't know any different. These were egregious and blatant violations. I will say that there has been conversation. We always ask ourselves, are we making the right recommendations? Are we doing what we need to? Our objective here is to protect our public and protect our young people from something that they don't even realize is a danger to them. We look at all restaurants, all businesses that sell alcohol, and try and hold a consistent standard. Many times we have come across other businesses that have had minors inside that have purchased alcohol or have gained access through fake IDs. But in those cases, what we found is that the identification cards used were either obtained through fraudulent means through the DMV and they were legitimate cards, or that they were so expertly done that it would take a highly, highly trained expert to understand that. And we recognize when businesses are making a good faith effort to try and distinguish between real IDs and fake IDs. That was not the case with this business, and you'll hear some of the examples of what we're talking about. If they were making a good faith effort, if they were trying to do what they were supposed to do, I would not be standing up here. You would not be here right now because we would be able to handle it another way. But we feel that at this point, we need to come to you for assistance because this is a business that is not understanding their responsibility to the community. So with that, I would like to call up in order one of our alcohol beverage control agents, Agent Connolly, who is going to speak about his role in the investigation. We've asked that the cameras be not placed on him due to his assignment in working certain assignments here in the city. And then after that, Officer Keaton Dadigan, who's one of our officers here in the Hermosa Beach Police Department, will be able to speak about his role in the subsequent investigation that happened with our Community Development Department and some of the things he learned during that investigation. So I'll turn it over to Agent Connolly.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you for letting me speak here. And
Good evening.
I apologize. I'm a little worn out from flying in from Atlanta and seeing my team lose. So how do you want me to begin with this? How do you want me to start? You may go over the history with the premises, how we were notified.
Yes, anything that would be relevant to the actions and reasonable interpretations that you saw, and just kind of chronologically is fine.
So the first premises, the first time we were there in 2023, they cited 9 individuals, and they pled out and paid what we call a POIC, which is a fine. They paid $750, and that'd be the first strike for a minor. Okay, so on January 1st, Officer Danigan gave me a call and said the premises, they had received complaints that the premises was selling alcohol to minors again. I told him I had a couple of my agents out with me that night on Friday the 3rd, and we'd sit on the place to see if we see any, what we call youthful appearing people to enter the premises. We were there probably about 45 minutes to an hour, and about 8:30, a SUV came and dropped off 6 youthful appearing males. I mean, they looked very young to us. So waited a few minutes, and Officer Lee, Chloe Lee, she's not here tonight. She was with me. We went inside, entered the premises, acting as patrons. Sat down, At that time, probably within 30 seconds of us entering, a group of 5 youthful appearing females entered. The gentleman, Uke, who's the employee, checked the IDs. I didn't think they were an adequate check. They were very quick. He was the one who was cited previously in the 2023 incident. All 11 were sitting at 2 separate tables, 6 at one table, 5 at the others. They are all served sake bombs, so alcohol, Sapporo beer with sake. Once they consume, we had our violation for our standards for ABC for drinking in a public prem. And so I exited it, notified Agent Gray. We came back in. Officer Jones from the Hermosa Beach Police Department showed up, came inside, ID'd all 11. All 11, 10 of them had fake IDs. 1 had his older brother's ID. So 1 had a legitimate ID, but it didn't look nothing like him. The other 10 IDs, so I've been in law enforcement now for almost 24 years. I just had my 10th anniversary with this department. When I first got hired, I worked at the University of California Police Department, UCLA. I've seen thousands upon thousands of fake IDs from every state, countries. I've also seen fake passports. These were some of the poorest IDs I've ever seen before. And what I say by that is the coloring was off. The minute they showed it to me, I knew they were fake. And I've seen IDs where I've had to look at it, and I'm trained to take my time to know these IDs. None of these IDs look like that. They were all bad. In fact, one of the photos, the gentleman's face is turned to the side. You don't do that in a DMV photo. So that's a dead giveaway. The signatures were off and the colors were off. So I go back to saying it's probably one of the worst fake IDs I've ever seen. ID'd everybody, issued them all citations. I left the premises, what we call a notice to produce records letter. I wanted all the employee information. If the employees have been RBS trained, the reasonable brevet service training, which they're supposed to have within 60 days of hiring, and also for the video footage from that night. So when you're a licensee in California, you're supposed to be an open book. You're supposed to supply me with these records. Video, paperwork for that was. So going back to that, the RBS training, when we did our follow-up visit on January 10th, none of the employees involved in the incident were RBS trained at the time. They were both trained on, one was trained on January the 6th, the second was trained on January the 8th. So they weren't trained. I got the videos from 2 of the cameras, but not for all the time that I requested. They've now given me more video. I haven't had time to review it. But that video did show the 11 people getting ID'd. In fact, when I put it on, I had the employee, let's sit and watch it together. And you tell me what you think. So on average, it's probably 4 seconds he's looking at the IDs. He takes what we call a black light, which is a dark light. If you take your ID and you shine it on there, there's going to be embedded photos in there. There's going to be the Golden Gate Bridge. Your photo is going to be there. It will only show up on a black light. Also, on your photo on the ID will have a vertical your birth date. So on the video, he takes it and just scans it like this. It's an inadequate text. He's not taking in what the person looks like. If it's valid, if it's not expired. So he does that to all 11. And it's an inadequate check. It's not. He's not doing his job. And he even admitted to us when he's doing that on there.
Okay.
Also, the last thing I forgot to mention also too is doing my investigation, we also have a false ownership. So on the liquor license is Mr. Song. He owns 51%. Mr. Lee owns 49%. They're both on the corporation, on the health permit, on your CUP and all that. So anytime you own more than 10% on a liquor license, you have to be put on the liquor license. He's not, so I've asked him now to rectify that, or I'm going to file charges on that.
Okay. Chief LeBaron, are there other folks that are going to speak? Okay. Thank you. I appreciate your input. Sit tight because we might bring back for some questions, but I want to make sure that all of our law enforcement has given a chance to speak and just share all the details on this.
Good evening, Officer Dadigan. I'm just going to give you a rundown, kind of chronological order about how everything came about. So on Saturday, December the 28th. I'm on the social media team for our police department and one of the PIOs. So I was alerted about a post that was posted to the Hermosa Beach residents forum. It's a Facebook page where residents can go on there and post concerns or pretty much anything they want about the city. So the post that I have here, I'll just read it to you. It says, AKA Sushi and Sake Bomb constantly serves alcohol to minors. Some look like they're in middle school. I have gone there multiple times. I live across the street, and the teenagers leave screaming and drunk, break glass on the sidewalks. They wake me up and scare my dogs. I have called the cops once before. Tonight, again, I went out over there and had to kick out more than 20 drunk kids. The kids got in cars and drove away drunk. Stop letting your kids do whatever they want and start parenting them. It goes on about drunken kids. So I started the report on this. I notified Hermosa Beach Code Enforcement in regards to these allegations, and then notified ABC. So that's how they were alerted of that. So then I was notified that on January the 3rd, Officer Jones, who's not here today, but he assisted with the ABC investigation where 11 subjects were detained and issued citations for consuming alcohol, and 10 out of the 11 had fake driver's licenses or ID cards. So we have the list of all the kids that were cited, and then on January the 9th at about 4:35, I assisted with code enforcement officers and the planning manager to do a inspection of the location. So I took multiple photographs and went around with the CUP to see if there was any inconsistencies with what their CUP had. The first thing I noticed was the sign outside was completely different from the last time I went there. Before it had read AKA Sushi and Sake Bomb, or I'm sorry, AKA Sushi, and now it read AKA Sushi and Sake Bomb. So I spoke with a subject who identified as the manager. He informed me that he didn't notify the city of the change because he didn't change the name of his restaurant. He had just changed the sign. He informed me he changed the sign because young people often order sake, and he wanted to promote that they were selling sake at the location. So the CUP reads that there must be very specific signs about alcohol and consuming alcohol underage posted inside of the location. I did locate 2 signs inside, however, they only partially met this requirement. There's sections that read about no loitering, no drinking in public, it's illegal to possess open containers in public, certain things that are in the CUP that are supposed to be on that signage. I didn't see any of that on any of the signage. It kind of looked like a generic sign that you might find on Google or something that they just posted. So it doesn't meet the criteria. I was also notified via the CUP that the management must successfully complete an ABC licensee education on alcohol and drugs or a lead training class. I spoke with the manager there, and he stated that the manager completed the RBS training, and he provided me with a copy of that. But he stated that his 2 employees had not completed the required RBS training that was required on the CUP. He also stated that nobody, including him, had completed the lead training. Next, let's see here. It states in the CUP that the CUP must be available for any of the employees and must be posted somewhere in the establishment. I did a walk around. I wasn't able to locate it. We asked him if he had a copy of the CUP or if it was posted, and he informed us that it was not. And then finally, there's verbiage in here about accessing video footage. It states that he needed to have at minimum 4 video cameras recording, and that it needs to be accessible to law enforcement. I asked him to show me his cameras. He did show me that he had the required 4 cameras in the establishment. However, I asked him to show me, he has a screen to do a playback, and he showed me his playback monitor, and to test the system, I asked him if he could show me the recorded footage of us entering about 5 minutes prior. After about 10 to 15 minutes, he just wasn't able to work the system. He informed me that he had another employee do it earlier in the day for the ABC agents in order to get the ABC agents recordings, so he wasn't able to provide me with that information. And that's pretty much everything I have if you have any questions.
All right. Chief LeBaron, do you have other speakers? No? Okay. Thank you all. I'll just ask my fellow commissioners if they have any questions of staff at this time. Staff broadly, everyone that's spoken so far. Any specific questions? Mike? Pete?
Well, excuse me, my primary question was regarding the quality of the IDs, but I think that was covered and answered my question up front. Thank you.
Okay. And then do any commissioners have any disclosures to make? This could include site visits to the business, conversations received before the meeting that is not in the staff report. It's generally understood that you've made inquiries and chatted with our staff for clarifications. Does anyone have any disclosures to make?
I made a site visit and spoke with some kids in the community about that establishment.
I made a site visit, and I know other business owners in that plaza area.
Okay. We will now begin the public comment portion of the hearing. Questions and comments on this matter be directed to the commission, not the audience. We would like the business owner to come up and speak if you'd wish to share your thoughts on what you've heard and give you a chance to present your side. Would you care to do that? Yeah.
He does want to, but I'll be his
Okay, that's fine.
Hi, how are you? My name is John.
Good evening.
Yeah, I'm his daughter, so I'm just visiting from Korea, so I'm just translating. And I wasn't there at the scene, so I'm just kind of taking in what he told me.
Okay.
But it is within like the statement letter that I presented to you guys. But again, sorry, I'm not sure about everything that happened. But according to my dad, he doesn't, he can't really identify whether someone looks old enough or like young enough. But then he does rely on that waiter quite a lot, which with the police said too, with the UV light as well. And I think his most important statement that he wanted to
If you could speak a little closer to the mic.
sorry.
that would-
The most important thing that he wanted to say and like relay was he's extremely apologetic and like very sorry that this happened again, because I think he said last year it happened where I think 작년에는 그 웨이터가 체크를 아예 안 했는 거지. So last year what happened was the waiter, he didn't check the ID like at all apparently. So then with that, he admitted to that fully, paid the fines, I believe, and everything. So then when this occurred again, he was saying how he would, I think last year too, he said that he wanted to buy the like ID checker machine, but someone had told him that even that cannot identify fake IDs like pretty well either. So then they said, oh, the UV light should probably work and all of that. Again, I'm not sure if this is entirely everything, but so then he didn't buy the ID checker this time around. And then when the kids, I believe they were like 18, 19-year-olds, judging from the police report that I read, he genuinely did not know that they were of like underage. He thought, oh, maybe 21, like right as like the ID says. And when he asked like the waiters too, or the waiter there, which I think his name is Edward, and the Edward said, yeah, everyone checks out, all 21. So he had no prior intention or malicious intent in selling alcohol to underage people, especially because of the incident that happened last year. And then there was the police officer said that a woman had filed in a report saying that, oh, these 20 kids drank at his restaurant and then exited the building. But I was asking him about it while we were sitting down, and he said that that was actually an incident of him turning them away because some of them didn't have their IDs. So I think that a lot of people think that every time some minors, they come with their fakes and everything. They come and then drink and then go off. But there are multiple incidences where it's him rejecting them. And this is a case where he genuinely just did not know that they were over the age of 21. And also, I don't think his restaurant has a sign that says, like, we refuse to sell alcohol, like, to anyone, like, we don't want to, like, that sign. And then he was telling me, like, a couple of days before, like, oh, if I refuse to sell alcohol, then wouldn't I be able to, like, if they say, like, I guess, like, discriminatory, like, factors. So that's what he was telling me. And then, sorry. But I do agree that he should have taken the ABC license, the certificate and everything, because that's really important. As my dad, I am biased, of course, but I genuinely don't believe that he's a person that will sell alcohol to underage minors without, like with any intent, because there's nothing he can gain from that, especially with what he encountered before. But I think that's basically it. He is really regretful that this oversight happened, and he's very thankful that no one got hurt. He was telling me how they were all coming in Ubers and they all leave in Ubers, and then a mom dropped, like, the girls off. So he, like, looks at everything to make sure no one's getting injured. So I don't think there was any malicious intent, and that's what he is telling me to and trying to relate to you guys. Thank you.
Okay, if you could, and thank you for translating or sharing. Do any of my fellow commissioners have questions for the applicant? No, Pete? Just in a question in term, given that you're here interpreting for your dad in the day-to-day operation of understanding the CUP and then communicating to employees, is that a challenge? Is there someone else that is interpreting, or I'm just curious how?
So the worker that I've met, and I'm pretty sure he's the worker that was working that night. His name is Edward. He speaks Korean and English, so that's how they communicate. So my dad's English he can't really, like, understand or relay things, but then he'll talk to him in Korean. But also, from what I know, I mean, that's, like, all I know. But 아빠가 그냥 에드워드하고는 한국말로 이야기를 하고 전달을 하니까 그렇게 relationship이 다 된다. 그치? Yeah. So he just speaks Korean with him, not English.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So everything that he does tell him, like, oh, have you checked their IDs? Did you check the flash? I think in the camera footage, I also, like, looked at it too because I was curious. But I think I do see him telling, like, Edward, oh, get the flashlight. So, but I also believe that he doesn't check the IDs himself. It's the waiter, and then the waiter says, okay, no, they're all over 21, and then that's how it usually goes. But he does also see that, in conclusion, it is his fault because he is a manager. He is the owner of the establishment. So he takes the blame for him and the waiter and everything, is what he just said. Okay.
And have you translated for him? It sounds like you've obviously spoken numerous times with your dad on this, but in terms of what we've talked about tonight and what's been presented by our officers, have you translated to him adequately in real time what we're talking about tonight?
Yes, I did. So we were, like, sitting down, so I was explaining to him that, but everything the officers have said and what they have told you guys is what he has told me too. So he has no, like, he doesn't deny any of it, but then I think the miscommunication or what he wants to say is, like, nothing was intended. Like, there's no reason for him to intentionally sell to underage kids. The kids would tell him, oh, they're from, like, UC Irvine, blah, blah, they're visiting for winter break and everything. And then because he doesn't understand or can't really speak English, it'll be the waiter. So it would be him telling, I think the process goes from him telling the waiter, check their IDs, and then they check, or he checks with the flashlight, and then the waiter gives the okay to my dad, and then my dad is like, okay. But then again, he can't really distinguish if they're, like, over 21, unless, like, they look really young, or Like they're obviously like 30 and up, but he's not that great at that. And I know that because he's my dad.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would just add, you've mentioned that your dad or the operators of the business have no incentive to serve underage, but I mean, you do make profit on those
Profit.
sales, so I mean, it's not entirely understood.
Okay.
All right, if I
인센티브가 아빠가 예를 들어서 뭐 술 파는 데에서 그 뭐 혜택이 없다고 했잖아. 근데 혜택은 아빠가 이 술을 파면은 아빠가 돈을 받잖아. 그게 혜택이라고 이렇게 말하는 거야. Yeah, no, he understands. Yeah.
Okay. I don't think we have any more questions for you at this time. If you could take a seat, we might have you come back up if you have any further comments. But at this point, and thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yes. And is there anyone, this is a public hearing, is there anyone from the public wishing to speak on this item? I'm looking around, I don't see anyone here that's speaking up. We could take Zoom comment. Is there anyone remote that's wishing to weigh in? Raise your hand, and if you could.
We have one speaker who wishes to speak.
Okay, if you could share your name and town, as we say. And once we acknowledge you,
Hi, can you hear me okay?
we can hear you, yes, if you could.
I've got, okay, wonderful. Yeah, I have a little internet issue. So, yeah, I'll admit I didn't read up on this, and I don't. I just came in just recently, but I know the topic. So I just kind of want to give you guys something to think about.
I'm
you know,
sorry,
I would-
I'm,
if you guys,
I'm not sure, at least I picked up your first and last name and town. Who's speaking?
oh, I'm sorry. This is John David.
Okay, John. All right,
Okay, sorry about
continue.
that.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So I just kind of want to give you guys something to think about is if you do decide to recommend removal of his license, you know, for some period of time, I think that's more appropriate than taking away the CUP. The CUP does hurt the property owner, who really has no involvement in this. I don't even know if even if the property owner was given notice by the police or the city, I don't really know that he has any influence because of a lease. So I just kind of wanted to throw that out at you. I don't see a reason to remove the CUP. And then also just listening to the daughter and the owner, also considering that this is his livelihood. I know it's a really important issue. I do think he should have done better. But this is actually somebody's livelihood, and I don't know what his individual circumstances are. So I really hate to see something permanently being done in terms of CUP or the removal of his license. So those are my comments. So thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, John. Do we have anyone else on Zoom that wishes to speak? If you do, raise your hand, and you will have up to 3 minutes.
There are no additional speakers.
Okay. Thank you. Does the applicant have any further comments? You're not required to, but if you wish to speak or rebut. If you...
No, but I don't think there's anything to rebut or anything. Like I said before, everything they reported is true. And he told me that as well. It's just, I think, again, the whole intention was not there. He's just, English doesn't really translate well. And also, he can't really distinguish underage or not, especially 21, like that age. But then he just told me he's just not going to serve alcohol to anyone that looks remotely under the age of 30 now, because it's just caused so many problems. And he's just very I think he's just really sorry, or that's what he was telling me this whole process or this whole entire week. So and he doesn't want to like cause any more trouble, and because of everything that happened last year as well. So I think now he's just at like a, okay, I'm done like selling alcohol to anyone that looks, remotely over or under 30, but also like, yeah, he's just really regretful. That's about it.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
We thank you for being here. Unless, commissioners have any further questions of the applicant? No? Or applicant, business owner? At this point, I'll close the public comment portion of the hearing, bring the matter back to the commission for discussion and deliberation. That can include questions of staff, which includes, of course, our police and law enforcement presence. Who wishes to start, or maybe does anyone have any questions?
I have a question that, I don't know, it's the planning director or the city attorney. This establishment operates till 10, all but, Friday and Saturday night. They've got an extra hour. So were we to revoke the CUP, the business could continue to operate till 10 o'clock by right, without a CUP?
You are correct. And ABC will conduct a separate process, and that may affect whether or not alcohol can be sold.
Could you repeat that, please?
So based on the city process, the CUP authorizes 1 additional hour. So by right, alcohol sales is permitted in conjunction with a restaurant. And then ABC's process will run separate from the city's, so that can also impact whether or not alcohol sales will continue. But that's a separate process aside from the CUP before you.
Does the ABC have the ability to deny alcohol?
I believe they do. I would defer to our representatives from ABC. I don't know if certain violations, merit a certain or prescribed penalty or not. So I'd have to defer to them on a conclusive answer on that.
Yeah, I discussed this a little bit with staff. I'd love to hear from ABC what your, to the extent you can, what your process or
And if you can just wait one moment while
status of the
we bring up the
process.
presentation, so that you can be on voiceover. So if we can cue our IT folks.
Got the camera.
Okay,
Okay, I have a thumbs up.
thank you.
I'm assuming that's so we won't see the Notre Dame logo?
Yeah.
I don't know if you missed the game, but
We won at the Coliseum this year.
Fight on.
Okay, so like in baseball, there's 3 strikes and you're out. With ABC, with minors, it's 3 strikes and you're out, so in the 3-year period. So the minute the first violation occurred in 2023, all right, they can pay a fine, and it's based on how much they make. So it could be anywhere from $750 to $3,000, or a 15-day suspension. It's up to them to decide, all right? So that first violation, they chose to pay a fine, which is $750. That's their first strike. This is potentially their second strike, which would be a 25-day suspension, and I believe, I'm correct, $10,000 to $12,000 fine around that ballpark. So a third violation within those 3 years would be revocation of a license. So that's how we would do it. We have our administrative hearings with an LLJ, administrative judge, all right? So it's heard that way. Does that answer your questions?
Yes, it does.
And there are some violations unrelated to minors that it could be a revocation right away. So,
Okay.
but we're just dealing with minors right now on this one.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think that's on that. So we're going to decide what we do in our CUP. Regardless, you're going to move forward with your process. They would still more than likely, if I'm hearing correctly, be able to serve by right if we have by right in the city, because they would still have an ABC license.
Correct. I'm
with 2
still
strikes.
finishing up the report. So he just gave me the video today.
Okay.
The rest of the video, I'll go through that, put it in my report. It'll be sent off through my supervisor, and they'll sign off on it. It goes to our Office of Legal Services in Sacramento. So it's going to take a little time here, They can also delay it and repeat, much like a criminal hearing, you can delay things and stuff like that. So this could be months out to 6 months out. I don't know how long it's going to be. I can't give you that. So, but once they're still going through that process, they can still sell alcohol. They're fine. So
Okay.
they haven't sustained this violation, or if they will. How's that?
Okay. Does that answer
Yes, sir.
questions?
Chair Peter?
Yes.
Question of staff, who's ever most appropriate. If the commission were to revoke the CUP tonight, is there any period of time from which the operator could reapply for a new CUP?
I believe it's 1 year, and that generally when a application is denied, you have, for a substantially similar project, it's generally a 1-year timeframe. I believe that would be applicable in this case.
That's probably close enough. They can reapply. There's just a certain time period that we don't necessarily know tonight. Thank you.
Correct.
Does anyone else have any other questions of staff?
I do. We did receive tonight, just before our meeting, a letter from the owner, Mr. Lee, and I do appreciate the letter. And in one of the paragraphs, he mentions additionally, I will be purchasing an ID scanner. Chief, can you speak to that issue, please? I remember one of our meetings when you mentioned downtown establishment getting a scanner. Is that just a general term, or is there a machine that can be purchased by an individual to be more accurate on the IDs?
So there are technologies out there that will allow for more accurate scanning of IDs, but it does not, under any circumstances, replace the fact that the person operating it must be responsible on how they do it. So, for example, if they were to run that scanner over those IDs, likely it would, if you did it right, would say that those were not accurate or not real IDs, but the one who had the brother, it would come back and say this is a real ID. That doesn't mean the person possessing that ID is authorized to use it. So there's still a component to this that goes beyond the technology.
Is there any alcohol serving restaurants today in Hermosa using those IDs, scanners?
Since we're really talking about more of just a larger conversation on technology, I will say that there is technology being used, but specific to what technology they're using, I don't know, and really couldn't speak to that.
Okay.
But we do speak to a lot of restaurants who make every effort possible through training, through ongoing messaging to their employees, and through the involvement of technology to do the best they can.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have any other questions of the chief?
Can I elaborate on that scanner?
Absolutely, yeah, given
please.
appropriate
Can we switch
technology
again?
assist, yeah. Was that a, okay.
Technology.
Wait, hang on, I think he's giving us 1 minute. Okay, I got a thumbs up, all right. There we go.
Okay, so the ID scanners we're talking about, fake IDs can be bought online anywhere. And there's really good fake IDs and there's really bad fake IDs. But most of probably 95% of the ones that I come by, if you scan them like you do at Ralph's or Vaughn's, they'll scan fine. They'll be fine. It's looking at the ID and actually taking it in. It used to be on the back. If you look at your license and you go back and feel it, your birthday's on there. If you feel it, it's rigid. It's basically raised. That used to be the first thing years ago that I'd feel for. I knew right away it was a fake ID. You just hand it to me, okay? They've gotten so much better. And we give people the benefit of the doubt. I call it, and I put it in my reports, as a passable ID. So if a clerk, a bartender, or a waiter is given a fake ID, and it's a really good ID, there's IDs that I've looked at, and I've sat there and gone, and I'll read the person. I want to react, and when I ask them their birth date, where they went to high school, something going on like that. And most of the time, people have tells with their eyes. You can tell if they're lying. So these IDs, though, were horrible. were really bad. But I'm telling you now, even with the scanner, you can bypass the scanner. You still have to do your check, and they didn't do the check.
Thank you. Okay, does anyone else have any other questions for our ABC representative? No? All right. Do any of our other commissioners have questions of staff or want to jump in on what we call deliberations? Who's got the hot hand? All right.
Well, I don't know that. Here's the problem for me with this whole process, and I'll reiterate what I've said multiple times in a similar situation. This is not what CUPs are designed to do. And when you read, for example, the basis to reject a CUP, it says something like to the effect of, is it inadequate or whatever. It's not. To me, what we're proposing here would be the same thing as someone who speeds repeatedly. Our solution is to lower the speed limit. The problem here is with the operation, the CUP is completely adequate. Were this not something that had played out over now a year and a half, because the caller mentioned, the person who's going to probably suffer the most as a result of a change in the CUP is the property owner, not the business operator. And in many cases, I'd look at that and say, well, the property owner, it's not his fault or her fault. In this case, clearly, this is a process that's played out. There's no excuse for the owner not being aware, the property owner not being aware of what's happening in this particular business. As the chief said, simply collaborated what I heard speaking to some folks in the community who are both younger but also very familiar with the high school population and so forth. This establishment is notorious, for lack of a better way of saying it. The other part of this that troublesome to me is in most cases, the violations that have been added to this, sign code violation and so forth, those are the things that, at least historically, the practice in the city has been, we want you to comply, just correct that, and we'll move on. I don't know that we've ever closed a business because they didn't have a sign permit when they put up an illegal or non-conforming sign. But the other part of this and the third part of this, I guess, is, okay, we take away those 2 hours. I'm not persuaded that what we've heard from the owner, the operator, that's necessarily going to change. Sure, and that's the other part of that. I don't know what that represents as a fine, but I assume that would be a significant loss of income during those 2 hours on a Friday and Saturday night. And so I'm always a little uncomfortable stipulating a penalty for which I don't really know the amount. The ABC, it seems to be pretty well established and so forth. But the final thing I would say, I guess, is when we deal with variances, for example, and a CUP, remember, is a land use entitlement. It's not a operational thing for a business. When we look at variances, another land use thing, one of the questions is there a significant cumulative effect? And in this case, I don't know how I can not believe, yes, there's a cumulative effect. For at least a year and a half, this establishment has regularly, intentionally violated their liquor license, their CUP. I hope that the ABC actions will be sufficient, and I guess punishment is the right term, to dissuade the operator from operating as they have. Taking away the 2 hours, I suppose, is indicative of the city and certainly our police department's perception of what this establishment represents in our community. So I'm going to very reluctantly support the revocation. And when I say reluctantly, again, there's nothing inadequate about the CUP. It's the behavior of the operator that's been inadequate. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Azant.
Chair Peterson, first of all, Commissioner Hoffman, I sympathize and empathize with some of your comments upon the tool that we are using. And what I will reflect on is that I heard numerous times this wasn't intentional. Now, 2 years ago, we heard this wasn't intentional. But what it says to me as a former food and beverage operator, then this person does not have the skills to manage his business. And so for that particular reason, I believe that finding D and E are adequate here to gain my support to revoke the CUP.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Vice Chair Hirsch.
Thank you. I share the same perspective as my fellow commissioners. You know, I think a year and a half ago when we heard this, this case was before us for modification for the conditional use permit, we heard a lot of the same responses from the operator in terms of what they would do to try and resolve the issue. And we are here again today looking at the same violations continue to happen a year and a half later once the operator has already been aware of the issue at their site. So I agree with Commissioner Isant. I don't feel like the operator has the tools to manage compliance with the CUP and with not serving minors. So I intend to support staff's recommendation to revoke the conditional use permit at this site.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Flaherty.
Yeah, I would also concur with the rest of the commission, but I'd like to add a couple things. Between the council in 2023, they added to this commission's recommendation. They didn't feel our recommendation at that particular time was strong enough, so they added a penalty, an additional penalty or two. I can't remember what it was now. I think it was actually closure. I also, so I support the revocation. I also think that staff had 16 months to look at the windows to see if all the signs were up properly. It's a shame that all those items were part of this. I think they were minor in some respects, the training, not the training itself, but the notices on the windows or the staff responsibility to check in after it had a serious violation and recommendation by both the Planning Commission. So that being said, I would hope that the staff would assist the owner and to make sure that the signs are up in the next week or two. I know that in his letter he indicates he finished additional training, and according to what I heard tonight, that some of the other members have also finished their training, even though they weren't trained at the night of the event. Second, and lastly, I feel bad for everyone in this operation that we have outside influences causing this issue. Meaning, I can't say kids will be kids, but that the training has to be more sincere on how to examine a driver's license if indeed we heard these were the worst we've ever seen. And I appreciate that. That leads me to believe that even though the video showed, you know, some sort of a light on the license and so on and so forth, it wasn't adequate. I support the revocation, but I'd like the city to help this particular, like Pete said, I think the property owner has, by the way, was the property owner notified? Thank you. I see the head nod.
Correct, yes.
Anyhow, I look forward to having the business owner be better trained. I hope he succeeds in his business. I think the serious punishment will come with the ABC. Strike two is a pretty heavy statement. I had not heard those requirements before. So thank you, Mr. Chair. Those are my comments.
All right, thank you. I agree. I mean, there's a lot, we've spent a lot of time during any four-year term talking about CUPs and this sometimes imperfect sort of, it's a property right, but a lot of it depends on the owner, et cetera. It kind of goes both ways. I do think that following staff recommendation and revoking the CUP is the right thing to do, noting that they will still, based on everything we've been told, still have the opportunity to act as a, serve alcohol by right. I think what strikes me is that there were multiple errors here. So in terms of training, in terms of processes and procedures, in terms of signage, in terms of sort of skill and training around spotting IDs. I mean, there's multiple points of failure here. It's kind of systemic. It's not one thing. So I agree with staff recommendation, and I intend to support it. So does anyone else have other comments or wish to make a motion?
I'll move staff recommendation and determine the project to be categorically exempt from CEQA.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Hoffman. I will give the second by a nose to Commissioner Flaherty.
Not your voice.
Is there any other debate on this motion? If not, I'll call the question. If you could open the voting for it. All right, voting is in progress. The motion carried 5-0. So in terms of, I'll look to staff in terms of either the CUP owner's ability to appeal or City Council ability to pull this item. What are our next steps?
Thank you. So the meeting minutes will be transmitted to the City Council at its next meeting, not the very next meeting. My apologies. It'll be
that first meeting in February.
February, yeah.
The 11th, correct.
February 11th. So the meeting minutes will be transmitted to City Council at that time, and either the City Council can call up the decision for review, or if they don't at that time, the applicant can also appeal Planning Commission's decision.
Okay. All right, so if you could communicate all that to the applicant and make sure that they're clear on next steps for their CUP, I would appreciate it. That concludes this item. This has taken a lot of staff time. I appreciate y'all being here tonight and helping to paint a picture and give us all the tools we need to make hopefully the right decision. So with that, we will move on to item 8, which is staff items, Community Development Director report.
So good evening. Just a quick couple of items. I wanted to make sure that I acknowledged Rihanna Guzman, our acting city clerk, who helped us this evening. She's sitting in the middle there. Sorry to embarrass you. And then a couple other call outs. I wanted to introduce you to Johnny Case, who's sitting to Rihanna's right. He is our new assistant planner. And at the back of the room, we have a code enforcement officer who was here observing this evening, Suzanne. So I just wanted to make those quick introductions. And then I also wanted to update you that the City Council at its January 14th hearing had a second reading for the zone text amendment to update Chapter 17.21 pertaining to ADUs and JADUs. They did take action to uphold the Planning Commission's original decision, essentially updating the zoning code to reflect state law, and then only making one local amendment, which was to modify the building separation. So I just wanted to update you on that. So that will be going back to the city council, likely the February 11th meeting for a first reading, and that process will go forward at that point. So I just wanted to make you aware of that decision.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have any questions of our Community Development Interim Director? No? All right, thank you very much for the info, and welcome to new members here. We'll move on to item 9, which is Planning Commission comments. I will lead off and just say that to all those watching, one of these chairs could be yours. I will be serving in our next meeting, and then there will be a new Planning Commissioner here for the March meeting, fulfilling the remainder of my term. Applications are due through our city clerk's office, due Wednesday, February 12th. The city council has indicated a schedule of interviewing applicants on Tuesday, February 25th, and they may, in fact, appoint the new commissioner at that time. I did check with our assistant city clerk. At this point, we have no applicants. But there's still plenty of time. So it's a good gig. If you have questions for me or anyone else, I'm more than happy to answer any sincere questions. I did post in a couple places online of the mechanics of the job, what it entails, how many meetings, how much time, et cetera. For some reason, people always ask me if you need to be an architect to be on Planning Commission. You do not. So anyway, that's my comment. Does anyone else have any?
Just a question. This person's name shall remain anonymous, but they did call me today and say they were interested in applying, but they could not navigate the city website to find out how to make an application. So if someone could help share with me where it is on the city website so that they can make their application.
That's actually the
Will
first
do.
question. No, I'm joking. Rihanna, do you or Alexis wish to?
I can certainly share it with you. I don't know the link off the top, but we will get that shared.
It's a warm, intelligent body, so I want this person to make an application.
Okay, but if you go to the city website and you go to,
Chair,
yeah,
it's
if you
actually
wanna-
under the City of Hermosa Beach's, the website, so hermosabeach.gov. You'll head over to the City Clerk Department, and then right underneath, under important links, you'll find the application.
Under city clerk, okay.
Yes. It's actually under forms, so it's the City Clerk Department, under forms, application for boards and commissions.
Correct. There's a little drop-down arrow that you have to click.
Okay, I made the mistake of looking in the Planning Commission department.
And maybe we can create a link. That might be a good idea.
yeah, if there's a way to sort of
We can certainly take a look.
put a spotlight on, appreciate it. Okay. Any other planning commissioner comments? The chance is yours, no? All right. Moving on to item 10, future agenda items. We have a tentative agenda here for our February meeting, which promises to be lengthier than today's if everyone holds serve. And we have a staff item zoning code study session. That will be, we have a zoning code amendment on temporary minor special events. I'm glad to see that that's moving forward, so we can get that done into the summer. But the zoning code study session, what will that cover?
We will be looking at commercial uses. That's the intent. Late summer, I think we talked about commercial uses, so we're going to bring that back. So looking at the zones, looking at the uses, looking at special operating standards for the various commercial zones.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Do I have a motion to receive and file the February 18th, 2025 Planning Commission tentative future agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All right. Hoffman with the motion, Izant with the second. May we have a roll call vote? Okay, voting is open.
You gonna go ahead and abstain?
Yeah. The delay helps our ratings.
Commissioner Hoffman? Are we doing verbal?
Well,
Sorry,
I think
did I jump
most.
the gun?
Who has not voted? Not to.
I haven't.
Okay.
Commissioner
I
Flaherty.
lost the site.
You can just go ahead and do a voice vote, and
Yeah.
Associate Planner Whitney can.
Yes.
can weigh in.
Yes.
What do you know? 5-0? All right, fantastic. I will note that we do have an item 11 public comment that is only for overflow if during our first portion of the meeting we lasted more than 30 minutes, which we certainly did not. With that, I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
Out of courtesy, would we inquire if there is someone who wanted to speak with the fellow commissioners, if that's the case, seeing that we do have at least one person?
That is at the discretion of the chair.
If someone wishes to speak that's in chambers, you can speak.
No?
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Good try, Pete. Now I want to call him up and ask him, Doctor, what brings you here?
That was a setup. All right. Okay, item 12, motion. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. See you in February. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.